Welcome to Interviews with Dr. Leslie. This is Dr. Leslie Wells, your host. Again, this show is brought to you by New Zealand, the First Light. I want to acknowledge Diane Wilkins right now for being the founder, the driving force behind that amazing organization that's really making waves on the planet to propel raising consciousness. Now, we do have an amazing special guest tonight, but first we're going to tune in for a few minutes, folks, and actually connect in with our hearts. We've committed to make this a heart-open experience, so it's not a show that we're going to dive straight into. This is meant to be experiential. But first, join us with Connecting of Hearts. This is a growing global community. We're reaching people around the world on this show and through the radio show, the Dr. Leslie Show with Holistic Living and Wave of Fire, which you can always access on the website bridgeholistichealing.com if you'd like to tune in. Through these two mediums, we are reaching over 165 countries around the world, as well as there's a local broadcast audience being reached in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the United States. So already in the connection that we have right now, you are being joined by 3 countries, North Carolina in the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, we welcome you with whatever country you are in and invite you to share with your friends about this show because it is ongoing. It's always free. It's about raising your own consciousness and awareness and joining hearts together in a global, loving community that are about oneness, about wholeness in body, mind, and spirit. Let's tune in for a few moments together, shall we? I'm going to ask you first to just place your hands here on your upper chest. And imagine connecting as you do with your heart. And we are going to use the heart in an energetic and metaphorical way. And you can picture your physical heart if you want to. Imagine it being the vessel that's there, beating the pulse of life through you, causing the flow of life-bringing blood through your body, bringing nourishment to every cell, every tissue, every organ. And just close your eyes for a moment, if you will. Breathing into that heart space, just take a deep breath in. Imagine it filling the space behind your hand. And as you exhale, imagine it releasing everything that no longer serves you at this time. And again, breathing in, and this time imagine a pink light filling that heart space. And as you exhale, releasing the past, bringing you into this present moment, right here, right now. Now just relax and feel your own breath as it naturally flows without trying to change it in any way. Just feel that. Bring your awareness into this part of your body that your hands are in front of. Just feel what it feels like to have your hands touching this part of you and the movement that your body's doing there as you breathe. And in your own timing, you can be opening your eyes. Thank you for tuning in with me and with this community. And as we move forward, I'd like to explain that we all have spiritual gifts within us. And as we peel the layers of the onion skin, so to speak, as we get clearer, as we get more transparent with ourselves, we actually open up those gifts naturally. All of us have them equally. We're all equals. And one of those gifts is a spiritual language. It's in every one of us. And I do speak a spiritual language. It is a wonderful tool for connecting for all that is, that which we call God, our source. So if you'll join with me for a moment, I'm just going to tune in with that language and allow us to connect quite directly with that which is our source. Rinia sonkaya lana banieste. Yishiki ashonkaya satain tai tai yalana nananya satai. Ye ke ison ko usun nini meni also ton te ye she ishakantai. Le ke ni nanana ni also time tatata de yasu kon ko ye she ishakan. Please understand that there's a word that says there's a heart opening and activation that's happening tonight, today, wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is for you. It's happening now. Even beyond the gentle meditation and connection that we just did, there's a heart opening, a heart energy activation. And you're encouraged to allow yourself to receive that, receive what's available during the show from the words and the spirit and the energy that comes through our special guest, Blake Bauer, in just a few minutes. Allow yourself to receive that which is being brought. Understand that this show, me as your host, Blake as our guest, we are only tools for something beyond this physical realm. We're being used to help others heal from within, to help others release that which no longer serves, to help others let go of what's not true for them and move into their own true essence, their own transparency with self. That's what we're here for right now. And you too are a tool in the same way. You are going to be used to reach others as well. It's a contagious light expansion, and it's up to each of us when we're ready to open our hearts to receive the help that's there to bring us into alignment with who we really are and who we were born to become in this life. And you can do the same. As you expand, as your heart is activated, as you feel and think differently than you did the day before, you can bring that same spirit, that same essence, that same healing to everyone that you come in contact with, to people in your family, people at your workplace. It doesn't matter about speaking words about it. The shift just happens. It will move to you and through you. And as you let yourself be a vehicle for that, your world will change. One person at a time, one conversation at a time, one relationship at a time, one opportunity at a time. And as that happens, we move more and more into enjoying living heaven on earth. That's what's here for us now. So thank you for joining with us tonight, and I'm going to move forward to introduce our special guest, Blake Bauer. And I first want to say Blake's an internationally recognized author, spiritual teacher, and alternative medicine practitioner, and his pioneering work has helped thousands of people around the world. Blake has followed his inner calling and brought through a book that will change the lives of many and already has. His book is called You Were Not Born to Suffer. Love yourself back to inner peace, health, happiness, and fulfillment. Blake, welcome, and thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, so thank you.
So it's exciting that this book is now available to the world, and I understand that the key concepts in your book in and of themselves are a story that's heart-moving. So I wondered if you would share with us a bit of an overview of the gifts that are held in this book.
Yes, I guess, you know, one of the most important foundations of the book is the idea that all of our suffering in life, our psychological, emotional, physical, and spiritual struggles in life are purposeful, but they're the result of us never learning how to love ourselves. You know, as little children, and then as young adults, and then as adults in our lives. And thus, all that suffering that we experience now in our life is a cry from our soul, asking us to love and honor and value and express and stick up for and believe in ourselves here in the present, so that we can heal the past, fulfill our purpose as we move forward, and also just enjoy being alive here and now in our current situations and relationships. So we tend to make things much more complicated than they need to be. So the intention of the book is to simplify things, to help people really liberate themselves from their suffering, and live their life to the fullest, and do what they came here to do. So.
That's beautiful. So Blake, that brings to mind for me as a practitioner for many years, I've helped clients understand the language, the communication that's coming through their physical bodies when they have physical suffering, when they have pain or discomfort, to actually see it as a voice that's helping to communicate with them. Do you see suffering in life and relationships as a communication?
Yes, of course. Yes, I think any struggle or suffering we're experiencing internally in our body or our mind or our heart, as well as in our relationships or our career, is obviously a message from our soul trying to teach us a lesson on how to love ourselves more effectively so we can enjoy our lives more fully. So if we're not in a relationship that's healthy, or we are relating in a way that's unhealthy and that needs to change, and we need to learn a lesson on how to relate to ourselves, with more love and respect within our relationships or within our job, then yes, we're going to have issues with our partner, or we're going to have issues with our boss, or we're going to have issues with money. We're going to have issues with the external world when there's a lesson that our soul needs to learn to take that next step in mastering an unconditional love for ourselves, so we can really take a step forward towards our enlightenment or spiritual liberation or the embodiment of love in human form.
So when we're getting upset or upheaval in our lives and we feel like we're suffering from it, how do we hone ourselves in to get what the message is we're meant to get? How do we listen further beyond the something's wrong here?
I think for me, the most practical and most important idea to talk about in relation to that is to learn to open in the present moment and not fight what we're experiencing. So a lot of times when we start to feel discomfort or experience drama, we want to run away, or we want to reject it, or we want to fight it. And what we don't realize is that our growth and our healing and our freedom and everything we want is on the other side of that, or through that struggle, that we have to go through it instead of going around it or running away from it or turning our back to it or closing our eyes to it. So for me, the most important thing is to learn to breathe and to open my body, open my heart, as you were talking about before, open my mind to the present moment. So not fight what I'm thinking, not fight what I'm feeling, not fight what I'm experiencing in my relationship in front of me, or in my job in front of me, or in my home or my family in front of me. So to be able to open to just feeling whatever's going on inside of me, in that moment, in that situation. And with that, as you open, the awareness, the clarity, it comes naturally. A lot of times we reject and we close down, and that's why we don't see it, because we kind of go into a hole. We kind of go into protective mode. We don't want to look. But by design, we are intelligent beings. I mean, the fact that we could sit here and have a conversation on this technology, in different sides of the world, and as human beings, we created this. And just the functions of our brain and our mind and our nervous system and our immune system and our cells, I mean, we are naturally intelligent. So when we open to our inner intelligence, who we really are, the insights that we need to move forward will arise naturally when we allow them to. So we don't have to really do that much. We just have to allow. We need to just open, and we'll get the insight that, this relationship doesn't feel good, or this job doesn't feel good. It's not true for me in my heart. I'm doing it just to make money, or I'm doing it just because I'm scared, or I'm doing it because I want someone's approval, or it just comes. Our heart always knows, but we've become so disconnected from our heart and are trapped in our head that we're confused. But as we open and just feel whatever's there, that our inner intelligence will show us the way, will show us what we need to see, will show us the lesson we need to learn to move forward in fulfilling our purpose and having a life that really mirrors back to us who we are what we value, what we stand for, and why we came to the planet. So, did that answer your question?
Beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. So what inspired you to write the book? Did you have
Well,
anything, did you have like a turning point in your life? What actually caused you to focus yourself to sit down and take on this task of bringing the message out in that way?
yes, well, that's obviously a long story, and we've briefly touched on it. And just for our listeners here today, to give just a brief rundown. As a young man, I got heavily into drugs and alcohol, and that was around the age of 14 and 15, and became quite self-destructive. And I didn't realize at the time, and obviously all of us realize quite a bit in hindsight or retrospect, but at the time I didn't know this, but I turned to things like drugs and alcohol and food and everything to numb myself to emotional pain from my childhood that was still stored inside of my heart and my body and my mind. So because I had never had the support to heal that, I started to turn to things to make me feel better. And those things were, at that point, drugs and alcohol and things that helped me to numb myself to that pain. And
Okay. Avoidance strategies, right?
exactly, which we
Any
all
way we
do.
can get away from that. Yeah, yeah,
We all
yeah.
do because we don't learn as children in school, and we don't learn at home because our parents never learned and they're struggling too. We didn't learn how to cope. We didn't learn how to effectively manage our struggles or
Mm.
feel our emotions and talk about them or process what we're thinking and talk about it. And we all turn to something. And
Don't we? And can I just add that
yeah,
many of us as children are raised in homes where the norm is when the physical body has any issue, we take a pill to put it out, right? We like take
right.
a pain pill to shut down the pain. So it's kind of like it's already been taught to us from a young age to do something to make the pain go away, right? Numb it, avoid it in some way. That's interesting.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So anyway, you were moving through your own avoidance strategies as a teenager.
Yes, and so I got heavily into drugs and alcohol and multiple forms of drugs and very excessive, every day. I started selling drugs. It became a business for me. It became my identity, my social survival mechanism with my friends and people, around my age. And it got so bad by the time I was 17 or 18. I had been arrested quite a few times. I'd been suspended from school quite a few times for having, drugs with me at school. I got a DUI, driving under the influence one night when I was drunk and high, and I actually fell asleep at the wheel, put my car in park, and fell asleep in the middle of the night on the road. Um, and yeah, it's actually it's an interesting story, but I was really out of control for many
Mm,
years, and
mm.
I also played American football, and I was a captain of my football team looking to play college football, and I got kicked off the team after getting the DUI.
Uh,
So by 18, I had hit rock bottom, and I had pushed away everyone and everything that I loved and cared about. And with that came a loss of my identity. That shell I had built up, my ego or who I thought I was, basically crumbled. And I went from being, I think, arrogant and feeling untouchable and that I could be out of control and that everything would be okay to feeling very insecure and very anxious and very lost and very confused, which was on a conscious level new to me to feel that way because I'd become so good at avoiding and repressing everything. But then here I am at 18, I find myself, I've lost everything I care about, and I'm very insecure, very confused, and very anxious. And so, and again, at the age of 18, you're trying to figure out, well, what do I do with my life? What's the next step? Do I go to work? Do I go to school? What do I study? What do I want to be? And all these huge existential questions are starting to arise. And so there was this desire, this burning desire born in my heart to heal my heart and to liberate myself from my suffering because I was confused and anxious and really struggling every day from the moment I woke up. But I also knew that life wasn't meant to be that way. So I feel like deep down, all of us know, no matter how much pain we're experiencing, that there's a way out of it. We just don't know how. And sometimes it's so hard to get through it that we feel we lose hope, and we think that, you know, we're never going to get out of it. But deep down, we still think it's possible. And we see other people who have done it. We see other people who are happy or seemingly go through life and are able to manage their struggles and their stress, and some of us, you know, have a harder time, or at you know, just haven't learned the lessons to be in that place yet. So I knew I could be happy, but I wasn't. So all I wanted was freedom from that suffering, and so I went searching for that. And what co-arose with that search or that quest for me was this feeling that I had come to the planet, that I was born for a reason. And again, I didn't know what, and I didn't know how to find it. But I felt that I wasn't here just to make money or get a job or just go through the motions, that, you know, there was something that I could do every day that was so true to me, and that was not work separate from who I was. So it was just me being me, doing what I do, and that I could support myself and make my living and survive and eventually thrive through something that was, you know, why I came here, or my purpose. But I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to find it. So I basically just began this quest to heal myself and find freedom from my suffering, so to be at peace and to feel healthy and happy and fulfilled, and also to figure out literally why I came to the planet. For whatever reason in my heart, there was this clarity that there was this reason I came to the planet, and if I looked hard enough, that I would find it. So that those two intuitive, and actually I was saying to somebody yesterday, or actually I did an interview a few days ago, and I was saying it was very instinctual. It wasn't, and I think for all of us, you know, there's the intellectual level where we understand something on the level of the mind, but in the heart and in the gut, there's a very instinctual part of us that really knows intuitively where we need to go, or if something's not right. So for me, it was very instinctual. So I often say, like a sick animal that either needs to heal or die, I kind of went into the woods or isolated myself from society in order to answer those two questions. You know, how do I heal myself, and what is the purpose of my life? So that instinctual drive that now I've realized was connected to the universe and to God drove me to 5 different universities where I studied various forms of alternative medicine and spiritual practice. And then I was very lucky to come across spiritual masters from Korea and China, and to train in things like qigong and tai chi and oriental forms of yoga and hands-on healing. And so that was quite extensive and in-depth, and I did that for years, and really cut myself off from really friends and family, and all that mattered to me was healing myself and figuring out why I came here. And you know, after years of doing that, I eventually felt that I had tools to help other people, and the only thing that moved me was connecting open-heartedly with another human being and being real and talking about life. And so I started to work with people and started to get good results, and it just continued to build and build and build. But then there was still this part of me that felt that I hadn't actually figured out why I came here. I knew that helping people and doing the work I was doing was a part of it, but there was still a part of me that had you know, still not found that one answer that I was looking for, that I knew existed. And through some very synchronistic, life-changing events for me, I realized some insights that led to my book. And those insights and the book were very clearly shown to me to be the exact reason why I came to the planet, to teach this message of actually learning how to love ourselves as the key to healing ourselves and fulfilling our life's purpose. So that's kind of a, you know, a short but extended timeline of, you know, when it began to where we are now. So,
well, I really appreciate hearing that story. I'm imagining there'd be a number of viewers who are like me, that there were parts of my own life that were showing up in my mind when you were explaining. And when you said you distanced yourself from your family and everything that you'd cared about before, the only thing that mattered to you was your healing, I suddenly, for the first time, really realized what was going on in me when I left America and moved to New Zealand. and distance myself, I'd look back, I was like, oh my gosh, he just spoke what I did and I never knew it. It wasn't in my conscious mind, but I look back and go, that's exactly what I was doing. And I wonder how many others, were seeing pieces of their lives as you described it and understanding it from a different perspective. So that was awesome. I have a quick question though before we move on. Is in that story, when you went to the place that was the pinnacle of your suffering, and then the determination for change, to where you started, going within instead of without, and you said you kind of removed yourself from the world before you went to school. It seemed like there must have been a point of some new clarity. How in the world did you get the inner knowing to go and study this thing, to jump from a life of taking and dealing drugs and living with the focus that you had, and then going into the deep pain of the loss of the world that you knew and the identity that you knew, and then deciding what was next? Just a bit of more information about that. What came in there to help you go, aha, this is where I'm going to go now, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to study this thing?
Yes. So firstly, I want to say, what I just summed up, from that point to now, is over 12 years, or spanning back, 16 years. So it takes time. I always say to my clients, so whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, you think about your life, and I say you have to think, it took you this many years to get here, of thinking the way you think, of acting the way you act, of reacting the way you react. So, be kind to yourself, because it's going to take a little time for you to turn everything around. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it's going to take a little bit of time, because, again, you've been creating these habits and channels in your brain and your energy body for decades. So to rewrite those programs, it's going to take some time. So I just want to say to everybody, be realistic with yourself. Don't place too much pressure or too many high expectations on yourself. It's good to be kind to yourself and be compassionate, So we just are where we are. We do our best with what we can. So it didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process. So I did an interview 2 days ago, and the same exact question came up. And there was not just one exact moment. It was like a domino effect. And the suffering built up so much that I realized I could not go back to that life. It's like you turn around and your old life, if you look behind you, is like a burning building. And to go in there is so painful, and you can't go back. So you can only go forward, So I had to turn towards a different way of being. And it just took time to find new things. So for example, I used to work out a lot and go to the gym. And that was part of my ego and my identity. And I built up a big physical shell to match my psychological ego shell. And I started to herniate discs in my back, which stopped me from going to be able to work out. And that led me to acupuncture, and that led me to yoga. And yoga and acupuncture became a big part of my life for a while. And then that led me to Buddhist meditation. And I was very lucky to find a form of Buddhist meditation that was very simple and helped me to manage my anxiety and manage my insecurity and manage my restlessness when I woke up in the morning and felt horrible. So it was a process of really adopting a lifestyle that was healthy for me, as opposed to a lifestyle that was self-destructive or self-sabotaging. So it took time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's really important. So it's like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right. So given that, okay, we have a question from one of our viewers that's very pertinent to this. How do you suggest someone begin this journey to the heart? This is from Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. How do you suggest someone begin that journey where Rome wasn't built in a day, but how do we get started on it?
Yes, of course. Well, first of all, I think one of the most important things is to look at your life right now and ask yourself, where am I compromising myself? Where am I not being true to myself? So start with your relationship, let's say, with your partner or your spouse. Am I expressing myself? Am I expressing my emotions? Am I being true to myself? Am I settling for less than I feel I deserve or I'm worthy of? okay? And just accept whatever comes up there. Then turn to your career, your job, and ask yourself, am I compromising myself with my job, or am I settling with my job? Is it really mirror who I am? Does it reflect who I am? Is it an expression of who I feel myself to be? Even if I can't name it or I'm not clear, does it feel true to me? Do I feel good going to work every day, that I'm doing something meaningful or fulfilling, or that really mirrors my interests and my passion? So again, just taking stock of our current situation. Am I compromising myself? Am I being true to myself in that situation? With my friendships or with my family, am I being true to myself? Am I compromising myself? Am I too afraid to say what I really think and feel? So those are really great places to start, because a lot of it goes back to the things we don't say that we feel, the things we think that we don't say in our relationships, in our marriages, in our careers. So it really does go back to that. And when we repress those emotions and what we're really feeling, we make ourselves depressed and sick and miserable, and we stay stuck in this loop. So the first thing is to just identify your truth in each situation. And you don't have to do anything, and don't judge it. It's just about kind of being honest with yourself, having an honest conversation with yourself.
Which
The second,
is tough, by the way. Can I say,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, how do we get out of our habits of lying to ourselves? I mean,
Yeah.
of trying to tell ourselves it's all good, or because we're afraid of change. No, my relationship's okay. It's just having an issue right now, but it'll all work out,
Right.
How
Well,
do
sometimes
we
it
get into
will.
our own truth? Yeah,
But
I
sometimes it
know.
will.
Yeah,
Sometimes it
yeah.
will, and sometimes it won't.
Yeah.
Um, and talking about it. So if you don't have a friend that you trust or a family member, then go. I would recommend seeking support, like a counselor or a healer or a therapist. Search for somebody you feel good about, and just start talking about what you're really thinking and feeling in a safe environment. That's really very important. Even if you're not clear, you don't have to be clear. Just start talking. It's like when we start to heal and we start to wake up, it's like a faucet that hasn't been used for a while. When you first turn it on, something doesn't come out, then it's rusty and it's brown, but eventually, after a while, the water starts flowing clearly. And that's how our expression channel or our truth channel is. At first, maybe nothing comes out because it's so blocked up, and then eventually it's dirty or it's rusty or because we haven't been using it. But then eventually the clear energy, the clear truth will begin to flow. So it just takes a little practice and working with it.
That's
Um,
awesome. That
yeah,
reminds me of going to the beach here in America. Often when you first turn on the water, it's like brown and it has to
yeah,
run for a few seconds. So
exactly.
I love this. Turn it, what did you call it? Our truth channel.
The truth channel. So, the truth faucet. So if we're not
Okay.
used to expressing ourselves or really being ourselves, it takes time it takes practice. It takes there's some muddy waters at first, but that's okay because we have to go through that phase to get clear. Um,
Yeah,
the second thing
right.
I would say, is, try and forgive yourself, because that's one of the things that keeps us trapped, is that we've made mistakes and we have regrets and we feel guilt and we feel shame and we beat ourselves up. But the
Mm,
truth is that everybody, excuse my language, fucks up. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody causes themselves pain. Everybody causes other people pain when they don't mean to.
mm.
Everybody makes choices that, are harmful to themselves or to others at some point in their life. And it's all actually purposeful. It's all part of the way life's meant to be, so that we can learn and become the best people we can be. We need to create pain for ourselves and others to learn how not to do that in a loving and kind and conscious way. So forgive yourself. It doesn't matter if you've committed a horrible crime, and it doesn't matter how bad or how shameful or guilty you feel as a person. There is nothing that is not forgivable. Even murder, anything can be forgiven. You can forgive yourself for anything. Like for me, when I went through my years of drug abuse and being out of control, I lied, I stole, I cheated, but I was always a good person underneath. Even though my actions and my behavior weren't saying that, deep down I knew I was a good person, but yet I had caused all this pain for other people and for
Mm.
myself. But that's because I was suffering and I didn't know what to do with my suffering, and my suffering was overflowing, and I had nobody to talk to about it, and I didn't know how to talk about it. But then when my suffering got so bad and I realized something needed to change, then that good part of me, that pure part of me inside, the deeper, truer part of me, that love was so strong that it was able to heal all the pain and all the guilt and all the shame. So I was able to forgive myself because deep down I knew I was a good person. I was just struggling, and I was in an unhealthy habit that needed to be broken. And unfortunately for me, it was a runaway train that had to crash for it to break. So if you can forgive yourself now, maybe you don't need to crash. So forgive yourself for those mistakes and then say, well, how can I not create that for myself anymore? Forgive yourself for not being true to yourself. Forgive yourself for not sticking up for yourself. Forgiving yourself for letting yourself be a victim. So if we can forgive ourselves, be honest with ourselves about where we're settling or not, or compromising ourselves, then we can begin to look and say, okay, I need to be true to myself now in my life. If not now, then when? If not today, then when? When is enough enough? So do you want to keep letting it build? Do you want to crash? Do you want, is that kind of how, do you want to kill yourself? Or do you want to enjoy your life? Because I think everybody has glimpses or tastes that life can be really good. When you're having a great conversation with a friend, or you're making love, or you have a good meal, or you're traveling. We all have these little experiences that give us hope because we know that life can be really amazing. So that amazing life is not far away. It's here. It's accessible to all of us right now. And if we learn how to deal with our emotional pain and our limiting beliefs, we can enjoy life here in the present now. And that's really all that's blocking us right now from enjoying life. Like right now, in this moment, all there is emotional pain that's trapped in our heart and our body, and then limiting beliefs that construct our identity that are protecting us actually from that pain that's inside of us. So through that, again, through opening to the present moment, like we talked about before, and just accepting whatever we're feeling and thinking, learning about how to talk about it, we can begin to move forward being true to ourselves, not betraying ourselves anymore. And then the last point I'll make just clearly is that life loves us and takes care of us when we love and take care of ourselves. So when we love ourselves and we're true to ourselves, life will take care of us because we're not separate. And life wants us to thrive. Life wants us to be as healthy and happy as we can be. So one thing that I never learned as a child is that everything is always as it's meant to be in every moment. So if we knew that everything was exactly as it's meant to be right now, no matter how painful it is, then we would have the faith to take the steps to make the changes we know we need to make. But a lot of times we're so afraid that it won't work out, or that we won't be able to eat or pay the bills or put a roof over our head, or nobody else will love us, even though this relationship is toxic and abusive, but you know what, it's better than having nobody. Well, you know what, that's not true. Somebody else will love you. Someone else will employ you. Life will take care of you and bring you exactly what you need when you're willing to take that step to love yourself. And that's really what it's all about. God, the universe, is just waiting for you. Life is just waiting for you to value yourself enough, to value your life enough, to be true to yourself. And as soon as you take that step, life will bring you a sign. Life will bring you the support you need to make the change. Life is just testing you to see if you can overcome your fear, basically.
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful.
and the first step
like the
is just
obstacle course of life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so you don't have to, it doesn't have to be this huge leap right away. Just expressing yourself, overcoming your fear of being real, that's a huge step, and life will bring you a sign to show you you're on the right path, to keep going. Excuse me.
Awesome. Awesome. So along that line, as far as talking about God and the universe there to support you, I have another question around that, but first I want to just answer, there's some viewers that would like to know already how to get in touch with you and get more of your information. You guys, Blake can be reached on his website, unconditional-selflove.com. And his book, You Were Not Born to Suffer, you can find on Amazon, iTunes, and various online bookseller websites. I'm sorry, my tongue lost its connection with my body for a minute. So again, I'll say that again now that we're trying to get connected a bit more. www.unconditional-selflove.com. Okay, this is Blake's website. Is that the best way to reach you, Blake?
Yes, that's wonderful.
Okay, and to find out, I'll just throw it in there and find out information about the amazing workshops and seminars that he's facilitating. He's on an Australian tour this year. So there's many opportunities to not just hear and read about the wisdom that Blake has to offer and experience it that way, but to get into the nuts and bolts of a hands-on, one-on-one and group consciousness connection with Blake for transformation. Did I say that right, Blake?
Thank you, Leslie.
That's
yes.
my perception of it. It looks really powerful, and many people are having incredible life changes. They're having major shifts. So, Blake, along the spiritual lines, why do you say that unconditional self-love is the path to enlightenment? How does that one lead to that total spiritual breakthrough?
Yes. So what I've learned, so after studying all these forms of healing and spiritual practice and spiritual disciplines, what I realized is that my healing journey and my spiritual journey was just me looking for love. And I believe everything we do every day is just us looking for love. But what I really didn't realize, and what most of us don't realize, is that I was the love that I was seeking. We are the love that we are seeking. Our soul, our spirit, our life, whatever it is that fills this body is pure love. But we've been conditioned and learned to only look outside. And that translates into looking outside for peace, for happiness, for security, someone to rescue me, take care of me, love me, fix me, and make me feel better, rather than learning the tools that we need to find all of that inside. So what I realized is that my whole healing and spiritual journey, and even all my work with many people, was me looking for love. And through that process, I was learning to love myself, because that was the key to unlocking all the blocks to that love inside of me. And through learning to love myself, I was also learning how to relate to other human beings and other life forms. So how that ties into learning to love ourselves being a path to enlightenment is what I realize is that as children, we all create the cocoon of an ego or the separate self. And in enlightenment teachings, a lot of times it's referred to as overcoming the illusion of the separate self or the ego. And what I realize is that as children, as human beings, we all create the ego because, like a caterpillar that needs to create a cocoon for it to go through the transformation to become a butterfly or a free and full expression of what it really is, or its soul's essence, we need to create the cocoon of our ego so that we can protect ourselves while we go through the healing and the learning necessary to break free and live as a free and full expression of who we are. So I learned that we create the ego or the separate self as an act of self-love to protect us from pain. But ironically and paradoxically, which is the nature of reality, is that all the pain that we experience in life is self-created. We create all of our emotional pain as children and as adults through not loving ourselves, through betraying ourselves, through hiding what we really think and feel, through repressing what we really think and feel, through being really critical and judgmental. We create all of our emotional pain that our ego is protecting us from. So as we learn to love ourselves, we heal all the emotional pain in our heart from our childhood, from our life now. And as we heal that emotional pain, we don't need the cocoon anymore. And the ego starts to come down because we have all the tools we need to live as a free and full expression of who we really are, which is love. And once we know that and we're embodying that, love doesn't need protection. It's like the sun. The sun is a great example of unconditional love. It just shines that love that gives life all the time, and it's unconditional. It doesn't say you can have it and you can't. It's not partial. It gives to everybody equally, and it doesn't limit it. And it doesn't need to protect itself. if anything comes too close to the sun, any darkness that comes too close to the sun, any darkness that comes near that light becomes illuminated. So we don't need that unconscious cocoon. We don't need to protect ourselves from other people because we've healed all the emotional pain. There's nothing to protect ourselves from anymore. And through learning about ourselves in that way, we start to learn that anybody who tries to cause us pain is really just suffering. They're just projecting their suffering onto us. So it really has nothing to do with us. So we stop taking things personally, and we realize that everything that's going on for somebody else is really just about their journey, and we don't have to take any of it on.
Wow, that sounds like a high level of empowerment to be able to take people's junk and not blame them and be angry at them.
Yes. Well, I think when we're honest with ourselves about our own mistakes and our own regrets and our own learning process, us learning to be the best human beings that we can be and realize our own full potential, this understanding and this compassion develops in our heart because we know, we're doing the best with what we know. So it could be no other way. They're just doing the best with what they know. But because most of us have never learned to love ourselves, and because most of us have not taken that step to master it now, we judge ourselves. And because we judge ourselves, we're judging other people. But once we begin to start to love ourselves, then we don't judge other people because we've started to accept ourselves for how we are and where we are in life. And then that naturally becomes how we relate to the outer world. And the most beautiful thing is that as we learn to love ourselves unconditionally, we realize that loving other people becomes an act of self-love. Because as we wake up, we realize there's no separation between us and anybody else. So to love another person is really to love ourselves, and to love ourselves is to love another person. But to do that consciously, we have to heal our own crap. And that way we're not manipulating for love. And it's a pure love as opposed to a conditional love, where I only love you if you please me, or if you do what I want you to do. There's a higher form of love where we just appreciate people for who they are and love them without expecting anything in return. And ultimately, that's because it's just a reflection of ourselves. So.
Wow. This is oneness embodied. Okay, when you were talking about the cocoon a bit more, a thought came to me, Blake, and it was this. I understand that the caterpillar, when it's in the cocoon, that is its time of also being completely withdrawn with life and everything that it was familiar with and liked. Just like you talked about, that stage of going through for yourself,
Yes.
Do you feel that everyone has to go through that? As we go through the cocoon, do you think that everyone has a time where to turn from the unconscious life to the conscious life, they have to withdraw from what they were connected with in the unconscious life? Or what's been your observations with your clients and people in your workshops?
Certainly. Yes, so for sure, I think everybody goes through that phase, and I think it lasts. What varies is how long it lasts. So it can manifest in so many forms, and what it represents is us looking for the safety and security that we never had in order to really get to know ourselves and express our emotions, to process and understand our inner life. So for me, it happened, as a young man, and I isolated myself, and I lived alone, and I studied, and I talked to people, and that's how it manifested for me. It'd be the same if you went to a monastery for a year or 10 years. That's your cocoon that you've created, that safety and security for you to go through the inner healing and awakening that you need to. For some people, it's a marriage. You create this safe and secure marriage, and you have your own home, and you have a family. But then eventually you start to realize that you're not fulfilled, or you don't know who you are. But you've created the safety and security that you need in order to go through that process. So it can manifest in any way, and it can take a year, or it can take a lifetime, because some people never come out of their cocoon. And that's really important. I believe we have two choices in life. We either learn to love ourselves and break free of the cocoon to become a free and full expression of who we really are, or we stay in the cocoon, and eventually our body dies, or this life ends, and we have to come back again to learn the lesson that we're meant to break free of the cocoon in this lifetime. It's like the butterfly doesn't live if it doesn't come out of its cocoon.
Hmm.
And the butterfly doesn't live if anybody else tries to break through their cocoon for them. If anybody tries to cut open the cocoon for them, the butterfly dies. So in the end, what we're here to learn is that nobody can rescue us, nobody can heal us, nobody can enlighten us. We have to learn to do that for ourselves. And what I've learned from studying all forms of religion and spiritual practice and medicine is that learning to love ourselves is that path to liberation that's universal for all human beings underneath every belief system. And yeah, so
That's powerful. I got chills when you said we die, or the caterpillar dies if someone tries to break into that cocoon and pull them out of it, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, that was so powerful, because I feel that, it's even tempting for us when we become the butterfly. Sometimes we want to run over to all the cocoons and rip them out and say, come out and fly like me. We try to bring other people to that which we've discovered now, or to where we are in our healing. How do we break free of wanting to control or force our way onto other people's lives when we look at where they are and know that we've been there? But, how do we let go and honor other people's paths?
yes,
I think even in families and relationships, it's really tempting.
it's everywhere. If you're a professional, like a doctor or a healer or a therapist of any kind, that is one of the biggest lessons, is learning that we cannot rescue anybody.
Mm.
If you're a mother or a father, a lot of people have children that struggle with life, with drugs, with alcohol. They have, they just struggle with life to live well and to enjoy life. And then there's a lot of kids, and you can be a 50-year-old kid with parents who are 80, and the parents struggle with life, So it happens everywhere, right? We want to rescue our kids, we want to rescue our parents, we want to rescue our siblings, we want to rescue the world. And it's a hard lesson. But
I so know that my father has Parkinson's disease, and I came to America to help support him. So I so relate. There's a lot of us baby boomers who have parents at that elderly state now, and it's hard not to want to rescue and protect and all of that as well.
Yes.
That's powerful. So,
Yes.
how do we really detach from that? How do we stay loving to ourselves and others and not be the rescuer? Like loving but allowing.
The ultimate truth is that we can't heal or rescue anybody. So one thing is to just hear that. But that actually is not going to do it for anybody, because we all have to learn the hard way. And in my experience, this is one of kind of those final stages of growth, and one of those, final lessons is that we actually have to go through the pain of thinking we can rescue somebody, being pushed away and rejected by them, and feel that pain that's in our heart, and learn that, trying to rescue them is like playing with fire, like putting your hand in the fire, and learn that it's just not possible. It's just not the way to go. And what happens is, so you can be present with the same person, but how you relate to them becomes totally different. You become more present. You become more pure. You're not attached to an outcome, which is very powerful, because what happens is most of us unconsciously are not aware that we're attached to rescuing someone or bringing them out of the cocoon, because deep down we have our self-worth is tied up with that we're only lovable or important or special if we can help somebody or if we can fix somebody. And that's a deep, deep pattern for a lot of us that we have to break through, that we deserve
like
love.
The codependency thing. It
Exactly.
says I feel more valuable because I'm helping or rescuing or something for you.
Exactly.
Gosh.
So it's very subtle, but the ultimate is to be able to love, and you can share your truth and help to empower people. But at the end of the day, it's all about their own learning and their own growth. So if you know that they could take a vitamin that might help them, or if they could exercise and that might help them, or if they would just read this book or just come to this class, it's like you can share that if purely in your heart you feel that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start to react and get angry or frustrated with them, then there's still an unconscious pattern underneath that we need to heal for ourselves, basically. And in my experience, that's all a projection of what's going on inside of me. So if I'm trying to rescue somebody else, it's because there's still a part of me that wants to be rescued.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I want someone
can
to
you
make
repeat that, please, Blake? Say that one again. That was awesome.
Regardless of how strong it is, I've realized in myself that when there's a part of me or there's a part of us that's still trying to rescue somebody else, the truth is that we want somebody else to rescue us. We want someone to come along and make our lives okay and say everything's going to be okay, and you know what, maybe you don't need to work so hard anymore, or it's all going to work out. And so when we're trying to rescue somebody in that way, really that's what we want. So it's a big lesson. It's a very hard lesson, but I can say that in my journey, that learning that lesson made my work with other people so much more powerful, because I wasn't attached to the outcome. So, I could give you all the advice I could and share with you everything in my heart that I could, but if you went away and didn't take it on or didn't use it or didn't want to or rejected it, that didn't say anything about my value or my worth or my effectiveness or the truth of what I was saying. It's just that's where you are in your journey. That's it. And that's unconditional love. So that's not like I'll just share with you only if you listen to me. I'll just share with you, and then it's up to you to do what you want. It's like I'll give you $1 million, but you have to use it this way. I'll give you $1 million, and you go do whatever you want, even if you want to kill yourself with it. It's like that's the difference. And so even helping other people is the same thing.
Yeah, powerful. So Blake, I want to thank you so much for being with us today and bringing not just the information about this amazing book that you've written, but the gifts of wisdom that you've been sharing with us now. I just, the phrase, if you can spot it, you've got it, was coming to me when you were saying, if you feel like rescuing someone else, then there's a part of you that wants to be rescued, So, yeah, life is a mirror, isn't it?
Yes.
So, folks, again, you can reach Blake on www.unconditional-selflove.com. Again, www.unconditional-selflove.com. And you can find his book, You Were Not Born to Suffer, on Amazon, iTunes, and other online bookseller websites online. And Blake, again, is putting forward an amazing list of seminars and workshops, a tour starting with Australia, moving to other parts of the world. Find out all about it and how to register on the website. Again, that's www.unconditional-selflove.com. Did I get that right, Blake?
Yes, thank you very much, Leslie.
Okay. What a blessing to have you. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing how things unfold with this ministry, so to speak, of you bringing out, the word came to me at the end when you were speaking, unconditional truth, where you are unconditionally bringing the truth that has been revealed to you to the world with no attachment for what, without it being about you. That's really what,
well,
when
it's so funny you say that. I want to share really quickly is that this tour that I've planned has taken so much work, and it's been so intense and consuming. And I said last night just to a group at a meditation class that I teach, I said I feel like I'm planning, even though I'm planning the events for myself and what I'm going to teach, I feel like I'm planning the events for somebody else, like God or the universe. Like I'm the universe's event manager, if you will. It's just coming through me. And when I resist it or fight it, I suffer. And when I say yes, I feel better. So
there we go. So be the vessel and don't say no. Thank you, Blake. Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you so much.